Hey everyone, Sev here. Today I'm here to go over my Adventure Plunder Patrol deck profile. This is to the current format of October 2022. So, as the formats change, I'll definitely be making changes. Like if, actually, I'll just mention any changes that I might do later on in the video. But let's get right into the deck profile. First up, we have 3 copies of Whitebeard, the Plunder Patrol Helm. During your opponent's turn, you can special summon one of your Plunder Patrol extra deck ships, but the ship has to be the same as an attribute the opponent controls or is in their graveyard, and then Whitebeard gets equipped to it. And then when sent from the hand or monster zone to the graveyard, you can special summon one Plunder Patrol monster from your deck except itself. That second effect does lock you into Plunder Patrol, so it is very important that if you can do your adventure stuff, do your adventure stuff before you start doing your Plunder plays. Next, the last 3 of the Plunder Patrols, playing 3, of the monsters. 3 Bluebeard, the Plunder Patrol ship right. Free Extender, because if you control a Plunder Patrol monster, you special summon this card from your hand. Then if this card is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard, discard a card and then draw a card. Basically, none of those effects lock you into Plunder Patrol, so this is very essential for plays that help you get into like totally awesome or even Adamancipator, Dragon Risen Dragite, I believe is the name. 2 copies of Golden Hair, the newest Plunder Patrol. This card is pretty cool too, and is pretty essential. The first effect doesn't lock you into Plunder Patrols, but the second effect does. First effect, you can send one other Plunder Patrol monster card from your hand or face it on the field of the graveyard, and special summon this from your hand. And then if this card is in the graveyard, you discard a card, special summon this card, but then you're locked into Plunder Patrols. It's also a tuner, so you open this and your Bluebeard, and then you can synchro off into your copy of Dragite or anything else you want to do. Next, we have 2 copies of Black Eyes, the Plunder Patrol Sea Guide. Basically, this is another extender which also helps recur materials, which can also fuel Golden Hair, but also can help fuel your ships like Murik and Bran, which can be very, very useful. Black Eyes can also special summon any monster cards you have in your spell and trap card, or any Plunder Patrol monster cards you have in your spell trap zones. However, both effects, I believe, actually no, just the first effect locks you into plunders for the rest of the turn. So that is something you should probably keep in mind as you play the deck. Next, we have 2 copies of Redbeard, the Plunder Patrol Matey. This is the second card that can special summon ships on your opponent's turn, in the main deck at least. Same stipulation as Whitebeard. But if this card is sent from the hand or monster zone to the graveyard, target a Plunder Patrol monster you control, and then equip this card to it. And that's all for the Plunder Patrol monsters on the spells and traps. We're playing 3 copies of the field spell because it is one of the best cards in the archetype. Basically what the field spell does is it gives all Plunder Patrol monsters you control 500 attack. You can discard a card and add any Plunder Patrol card from deck to hand. Then if this card's in the graveyard, you can target 1 Plunder Patrol card in your spell trap zone, bounce it back to hand, or no, set the field spell, and bounce it back to hand. Literally one of the most sticky field spells in the entire game, and probably one of the more powerful field spells that like you can play legally in the game. Definitely something you'll want to play 3 of, as without it the deck just doesn't quite run the same, and it's a lot harder to OTK with the deck. Next, 1 copy of Emblem of the Plunder Patrol. Basically, equipped to only a Plunder Patrol monster. It gains 500 attack, and then your opponent cannot target the equipped monster with card effects. You can send this equipped card to the graveyard, special summon 1 Plunder Patrol monster from your extra deck with the same attribute as a monster on the field. With the same attribute as a monster on the field or in the graveyard, then take 1 monster that is equipped with this card and equip it to that special summon monster as an equipped spell with this effect, and the equipped monster gains 500 attack. Basically, in pure variants, this is played as like a 2 of, but in this variant, it's played as a 1 of. Not as useful, but still has some corner case uses. Plunder Patrol, shipping. At 1, basically it's the fusion spell, but you can banish this card. Target a Plunder Patrol monster you control, except it, or a Plunder Patrol card you control, or monster you control. Equip one emblem of the Plunder Patrol, or one Plunder Patrol monster from your deck to that target. Basically, yeah. This is very debatable. This is kind of a flex spot. If you want to cut it, and you can, you know, it could bring the consistency to a 40 card list. 1 copy of Plunder Patrol Booty. This is a lot less negotiable in my opinion. This is something that you'll really want to use. You can declare 1 attribute, then target a face-up monster your opponent controls. It becomes that attribute to the end of the turn, even if this card leaves the field. Then you can take 1 Plunder Patrol monster from your graveyard, either shuffle it into the deck, or special summon it from the graveyard. Then, again, that's a hard once per turn effect. Then once per turn, during the end phase, if you control no Plunder Patrol monsters, you send this card to the graveyard. Basically, really good for recursion tools, and also manipulates your opponent's attributes, which in corner cases does really affect your opponent's play, but it's mainly just used in order to manipulate what ships you can summon in order to make them the most impactful as they possibly can. That is it for the first leg of the deck. Very compact engine size, but you can expand it if you want to play a more pure variant, but in my opinion the adventure variant is the best. 2 copies of Water Enchantress of the Temple. If you control an adventure token, you special summon this card from your hand. But the main effect you'll be doing is you can banish this card from your hand or graveyard. Add a Rite of Aramazier from your deck or graveyard to hand. If you control an adventure token, you can place 1 field spell that... okay, well, you don't need to worry about that effect. Basically, used to get your Rite of Aramaziers, but if you want to play Small World, I recommend playing this card at 3 because it's a bridge into any of your main deck Plunder Patrols. Well, not any, I guess, like you can't bridge into Whitebeard because it has the same attack, but you could bridge into like Black Eyes, I think. Black Eyes? Hello? Am I tripping? Where's Black Eyes? Oh, Black Eyes. Yeah, you could bridge into Black Eyes if you wanted to. You could bridge into Golden Hair. You could bridge into Bluebeard. You can bridge into Redbeard. Only one you can't bridge into, I believe, is Whitebeard. Unless you want this. Actually, you couldn't even... This card would need to be your second bridge. So this can be a bridge, in a Small World bridge, but again, it's not extremely useful. Like, sure, you can bridge into almost any of your ships or any of your pilots, but like, again, you need this to be the second revealed card. 1 copy of Wandering Griffin Rider. During the main phase, if you control no monsters or control an adventure token, you special summon this card from your hand, and then it's basically an on-negate on legs by shuffling itself back if you control an adventure token, which obviously you'll do. You will. Now onto the spell cards of the package, we're playing 2 copies of Rite of Aramazier. Basically, if you play Yu-Gi-Oh, you most likely know what this card does. Control no adventure token, make an adventure token. Then if you do not control a Fateful Adventure, you can place 1 Fateful Adventure from your deck in your face of spell trap zone. Then you cannot activate the effects. Monster on the field, the turn you activate this card accepts special summon monsters. Then 1 copy of Fateful Adventure, used to basically grab not only your Draco back, but also your Wandering Griffin Rider. Basically a pretty quintessential piece is setting up at least 1 Omni Negation on your first turn. Then 1 copy of Draco back, the Rideable Dragon. Basically just 1 big out to Floodgates. Also, you can bounce back your Kaijus and just keep trippeting your opponent's field. But also free discard fodder too, as you can re-equip it from your graveyard. So next, for a Kaiju package, this is the 3rd leg of the deck. 1 Dogoran, the Mad Flame Kaiju, 1 Radian, the Multidimensional Kaiju, 1 Thunder King, the Lightning Strike Kaiju. This Kaiju is debatable. If you want to play GZQ, you honestly can. Like, they might as well be the same card in this deck. The only thing that really matters is the light attribute. However, Dogoran and Radiant, you can't play these ones because they are ship-friendly attributes in your extra deck, being Dark, Fire, Morik, Brand, and then this would be Liss. But if you want to play, if you have a nice GZQ, you can play it. You don't need to play Thunder King. Thunder King just honestly looks cool, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I don't believe there's another Fire Kaiju. I don't believe there's another Dark Kaiju, so I think these two are mandatory to play if you want. I tried some testing with Gamma Seal, but really, you don't have that much of trouble bringing out your Blackbeard, so it's really not worth it. Then 1 copy of Interrupted Kaiju Slumber, just to be able to help break boards. Also search Kaijus, and if you want to discard it, then you can search a Kaiju. Next on it, just like power spells, I guess. Yeah, power spells would be the right word. We're playing 3 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. If your opponent activates any sort of monster hand trap or even a monster negation, draw 2 cards, or you can take control of an opponent's monster, or you can rip a card out of their hand. Very, very powerful effect. Next is 3 copies of Forbidden Drip Drip Drop. Very, very powerful card. Can be used to proc any of your pirates effects. Can also be used to dodge effects. Can also be used as a board breaker too. Very multi-purpose. I do heavily recommend investing the money into getting these. These are very, very useful cards. Card I don't think will really drop in value until something power creeps it, but that won't happen hopefully for a while. Next, 2 copies of Pot of Desires. Draw Engine. You can, if you want to, play Pot of Prosperity, but Desires is a little cheaper, being a common in a structure deck. But also, Pot of Desires has one keen advantage of it doesn't lock you out from drawing. So if you're Prosby before you if you Blackbeard at all during your turn, you can't Prosby, and if you Prosby before you Blackbeard, you can't Blackbeard, because the draw is not optional. So that is something I personally prefer over Prosperity, but if you want to, you can play Pot of Prosperity. 1 Terraforming to grab the field spells, and then 1 copy of Foolish Burial to send either Water Enchantress to the temple, or sending one of your ships, or sending one of your pirates to maybe get some plays online, or even sending Golden Hair to basically kind of debrick your hand and get some plays going. Now for the hand traps, we're playing 3 copies of Effect Veiler. I think this card really is really prominent in this format because it's targeted negation, and it's really good against Tier Element, because if your opponent tries to Kalos, dump a card, you Veiler, then they can't special summon the card, then mill 5 cards, and especially if they have merely, that's milling 8 cards. So being able to stop that in a Tier Element player, or being able to stop a Tier Element player from doing that, is really powerful. And in my opinion, this is a better hand trap than Ash right now in this format. But again, that will probably very much change. Plus, Veiler is dirt cheap. It's been reprinted and common so many times. You could easily pick this card up for, I don't know, $1 maybe. 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. A pretty similar reason to Veiler. Pretty more expensive card because I think it's closer to $10 a copy, but still relatively cheap from what it once was. Targeted negation is very powerful against decks like Tier Element, and then Sprite, it does work too. But that'll be all for the main deck. Now moving on to the extra deck. In this video, I won't show what side deck, but I'll discuss like side deck options that you could play, in case you wanted to know like what you would want to play for like the meta matchup. We're playing 2 copies of Plunder Patrol Ship Liss. During your main phase, you can special summon 1 Plunder Patrol monster card from your hand or face-up spell trap zone. And then when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, discard a Plunder Patrol card, negate the activation. If you do destroy it, then if this card is equipped with a Plunder Patrol card, add one Plunder Patrol card from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect of ship list once per turn. Very useful for getting sort of a little draw loop with your Blackbeard live, because you can summon this once to your opponent's turn. You can Blackbeard, draw a card, summon a ship, and then summon Blackbeard back out, get another ship, draw a card on your turn. So you're drawing a lot of cards using this card in Blackbeard, but this can also be used as a form of extension. And it's also a monster negate too. If you want to try to bring this out on your first turn, you very well can. Next, we're playing Super Poly targets, because Super Poly is a pretty formidable card this format. So for the Super Poly targets, we're playing Starving Venom Fusion Dragon and one Predaplant Dragos Stapelia. The Starving Venom Fusion Dragon is 2 dark monsters on the field except tokens. Pretty obvious. And then Dragos Stapelia, very, very good against tier element, sprite tier, or tier with sprite stuff. Like, again, Dragos Stapelia and Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, in my opinion, are some of the best Super Poly targets. But if you wanted to, you could probably cut like Dragos Stapelia for like a Garura if you wanted to, or your Starving Venom for a Garura. If you still wanted to keep the Dragos Stapelia but you wanted to play Garura, you very well could cut one of these. But the format ever comes around where Super Poly is not a very good card, these two can be your first to go, and it opens the door for a good chunk if you really think about it. Out of the synchros, we're playing 3. We're playing 2 Plunder Patrol ship Ram. Basically, this boosts all other Fiend monsters you control with 500 attack. You discard 1 Plunder Patrol card, banish a spell trap your opponent controls that does target. Then you can add a Plunder Patrol monster from your deck to your hand. This is a pretty unique way to get extension into your hand, but also serves as a way to out very annoying spells, field spells. Sadly, it's not out to mine, but what can you do? And 1 copy of Adamancipator Risen Dragite. Basically, we're not using the first effect of this card. We're basically just using its negation effect. This is a card that is extremely optional. If you wanted to play a white Aura Whale instead of it, go nuts. I just so happen to have an Adamancipator Risen Dragite. If you wanted to play Zeus instead of this card, go nuts. Like Zeus, even though Zeus isn't that popular in this format, if there's another format where Zeus is very good, and you can swap out the Super Poly targets, play Zeus, play Dragite, play White Aura Whale, play whatever you want to, really. Onto the Exceeds, we're playing 2 copies of Murik. This banishes a monster and adds a Plunder Patrol spell trap from deck to hand. It also has a Dingirsu protection effect, where you just detach a material and protect Plunder Patrol monster you control. And that actually comes up in some corner cases. So next, we're playing a Toad package of 1 Bahamut, 1 Toad. Bahamut summons Toad and does nothing else. And Toad is an Omni Negate, which can get you back all of your Plunder Patrol pirates and also your Blackbeard. Next, we're playing 3 copies of Blackbeard, the Plunder Patrol ship, the Plunder Patrol captain. Basically, this is the card you'll 100% want to play 3 of. It's pretty expensive. I think it's like $10 a pop. Like maybe even, climbing more than that. But if you want to play this deck, you can't play it without Blackbeard, sadly, as Blackbeard is extremely necessary for this strategy. Because you target an effect monster you control, and you special summon a Plunder Patrol ship with the same attribute as a monster your opponent controls are in the graveyard. If you equip that target to it, then draw a card. This can be used to get not only interruption, but also extension into your hand, and can help bridge OTK, and with lists can create a draw loop. Then 1 copy of Salamangreat Almirage. It can act as like a bridge in order to get to Blackbeard if you have like Golden Hair. You know, summon Golden Hair, Link, Almirage, Golden Hair, pitch, summon, make Blackbeard. So yeah, that'll be all for the extra deck. And then that'll be all for the deck profile. I really do hope you guys all enjoyed this video. This deck is easily my newest, most competitive deck I currently have. It's really fun to play. It's definitely like my opponents of the YCS said, you know, this deck is pretty difficult to pilot, and it definitely is. You definitely have to have a good amount of knowledge of like what is in my hand, what are my plays, what locks me, what is going on in the game. You have to have a lot of game sense to play this deck efficiently, and I'm still learning about this stuff, about this deck every single day. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in another video. Peace out.